you feel anxious and unfocused? Do you have zero libido? Or maybe you've noticed a random chin hair, thinning hair around your temples, or sudden acne? Either way, it might be because of an imbalance in a hormone that we don't talk about enough. And that's testosterone. And yes, women do have testosterone, and it does matter more than anyone ever told us. Welcome back to the Hormone Shift Show. I am your host, Leslie Duffy. And in this short episode, I'm going to walk you through two ends of the spectrum, high testosterone and low testosterone. You're going to learn how to spot it and what you can actually do about it. You're going to come away with an understanding of what the signs and symptoms are of each, the high and the low testosterone, what causes each, and 3 ways to boost your testosterone or reduce your testosterone. Let's get into it. So I wanted to do a quick testosterone 101 review before we get into what highs and lows might look like. So testosterone is an androgen hormone, and there are several androgen hormones. Andro is a prefix, it means male. It is one of the major hormones in men. Now, all hormones are made in your mitochondria, which if you remember back in science class in high school, it's those powerhouses of the cells. We also produce most of the testosterone in your ovaries and your adrenal glands, and it works with estrogen for good bone health. It is essential for muscle mass and brain health and sexual health. We want to remind ourselves that a healthy human has a healthy sex life, and it is one of the major things that contributes towards happiness, especially if you have a partner, to have a healthy sex life. So this is a very important hormone. Now, if you look at a woman's lifespan, we women have a boost of testosterone in puberty, and we also get a temporary boost in perimenopause. And if you think about it, perimenopause is like reverse puberty. We're getting the highs and lows of all of these hormones, but in a different decade of our lifetime. And if you have teenagers in the house and you're going through perimenopause, it's just those classic puberty symptoms in each person. We've got it in the teenager, we've got it in the mom, and it can be a total tinderbox of hormones. So it can be a very volatile time for everybody. So let's get into testosterone if it's too low. In low testosterone, we have this constant fatigue, we have low motivation, and it's very much tied in with dopamine, which is that motivating neurotransmitter. It gives you that kind of like meh mood, like you don't want to do anything, you're really losing a lot of interest in things that you used to enjoy. There's something called anhedonia, and a lot of people who are depressed have these types of symptoms where there's just like this flatline depression, and they're also suspecting that there is a link with low testosterone with depression. So if you or your family members are suffering from any sort of depression, it might be interesting to get the testosterone levels checked. It could be linked to that. There's also decreased muscle tone, and there's slow recovery after workouts. You have low libido or low sex drive. And believe it or not, it's also tied to infertility, and you might have trouble conceiving if you have low testosterone. This is one of those things that nobody ever thinks about. I think the fertility clinics are starting to get onto that now. So you will see that they might be testing for testosterone levels, but that is something that if you are a perimenopausal woman and you've waited to have a child, you might want to get that checked out if you are not able to conceive. Maybe you also would have trouble sleeping and vaginal dryness. Believe it or not, it is that we did talk about estrogen in a couple of episodes ago, and estrogen is one of those major hormones that will help with vaginal, genital, urinary symptoms, but so will testosterone. Testosterone is huge for these types of symptoms, and in fact, you can get something called DHEA as a suppository or troche or something for the genital urinary area so that it will support you in that area. And another one that is huge with testosterone is brain fog. It's unbelievable. You also might experience weight gain if you have a low testosterone, and also dry skin and thin skin, which would be like the opposite of those teenagers with the oily skin and the oily hair, and anxiety. All right, so let's talk about causes of low testosterone. And even though it is normal for us to normally decline in our testosterone levels, maybe the little bit that we do have, we can try to preserve it and to make it less impactful. But one of the things that would cause low testosterone would be things, the number one thing actually would be lifestyle, believe it or not. If you're not getting enough exercise, if you're smoking, if you're drinking alcohol, it's been linked to low testosterone. Even a low calorie intake, a lot of women with eating disorders would have low testosterone. And I actually see this in my practice a lot, not the disordered eating, but I will say that many women who come into my practice who are in perimenopause, who have gained weight, and I'm guilty of it too, just because I'm just so busy, is we do not eat enough calories. And you need calories to make the raw material, my friends. You need to eat your food because this will give you the raw material to make your hormones. So that could be one of the reasons why we're not making enough testosterone. Another reason for low testosterone could be medications. A statin is known to lower your testosterone levels, even oral birth control pills. And nutrition. So let's talk about nutrition. Foods associated with low testosterone would be like these sugar drinks, high sugary drinks, those frappuccinos, those milkshakes that we get at Chick-fil-A, the pastries, coffee, even with or without caffeine, it doesn't matter. Decaffeinated coffee too. Diet beverages and dairy, believe it or not, that can also contribute to a low testosterone level. Other things that cause low testosterone would be BPA, which is an industrial chemical that's used in plastics and as a lining in some food and drink cans. And it acts like an endocrine disruptor. It's also an obesogen. So think about if you're drinking a drink out of a can, it could be a Topo Chico, it can be a Diet Coke, it can be a Coca-Cola, all of these things, they have a lining on the inside of the can, and that's lined with BPA. So those are things that can compete for receptors in your cell, and it will kick out your testosterone. So you're not using your testosterone effectively. And if you're not using it, your body's not going to make it. So we have these receptors that are being taken over by plastics or chemicals. So these do make an impact in your hormones. Another thing that might be causing you to have low testosterone would be other serious, more medical conditions that you would obviously get assessed by your doctor. Things that could diseases of the adrenal glands or the pituitary glands. And another thing is high cortisol levels. And I talk about stress a lot, but this is part of that whole lifestyle picture, is that when you have high chronic cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, and if you wanted to go back and learn about that on, I think it's episode 1, it suppresses your testosterone. In fact, cortisol and testosterone compete for receptor sites, and where the body's going to prioritize your survival. So it's going to have cortisol win the battle between cortisol and testosterone. And so your testosterone is going to naturally drop. Now, stress, it down-regulates all of your sex hormones, not just testosterone. So it's very important that we want to keep that in check, especially for women over 40, because we're already shifting to a very tumultuous hormone environment, and we're also dealing with a lot more stress. Okay, so if you do have low testosterone, wait until the end. I'm going to tell you how to naturally raise your testosterone levels. But first, we're going to talk about high testosterone. So high testosterone, signs and symptoms of high testosterone would be increased belly fat or belly weight, insulin resistance, or that pre-diabetes type of picture. If you've gone to your doctor and they've taken some blood work and they tell you you have pre-diabetes, that is something that will cause a high testosterone. And you'll also notice a square body shape that is very common with a high testosterone picture. You'll also have that acne, the facial hair, even for women, thinning hair on the head. Also with the irritability, short fuse, if you have a history of PCOS, or if you have any sort of blood sugar swings, that is also going to cause this high testosterone levels. Again, if you have any weight gain, 10 to 15 pounds, classic, possibly high testosterone level, classic with that boost in perimenopause. Now, the causes of high testosterone in women, and most commonly, is a higher insulin. And if you remember, Insulin is a fat storage hormone. We get insulin released by the pancreas when we eat anything with sugar, anything. And it can be a potato, it could be a muffin or a Cinnabon. Anything with sugar in it, or even a carbohydrate, is going to cause a release of insulin. However, if you're constantly releasing insulin because you're eating a lot of sugar foods or high sugar foods, it's also going to cause your ovaries to make too much testosterone. If you have PCOS or subclinical PCOS, if you have any sort of chronic inflammation, if you are also have high androgens, that is something that you would need to get screened for, but you wouldn't even know about it. But if you have high testosterone based on your symptoms, get screened for all of these things. Certain supplements can cause higher testosterone. And if you have high adipose tissue, meaning a lot of fat, body fat is going to be more likely to convert into other hormones that would increase your testosterone levels. Another reason for a high testosterone level could be your genetics. You just might likely make a certain type of pathway that testosterone takes that your body just happens to like. Another reason for a high testosterone could be high triglycerides and any sort of medical issues like Cushing's disease. So if you think that you have any of those high testosterone symptoms, really important to get screened for any sort of underlying reasons as to why that could be happening. All right, let's get into 3 ways to boost your testosterone if it's too low. Number 1, you want to lift heavy things, my friend. This is really, really good. It's going to create growth hormone, which creates testosterone. This is incredibly important. Resistance training is a natural way to support testosterone production. It's like a hormone factory. It is a wonderful way for you to naturally promote that. It's so good for your bones. It's good for your muscles. It prevents that muscle wasting, and it'll help you make more testosterone. Number 2, you want to eat enough protein and calories. If you are under eating, if you're skipping breakfast, if you're skipping meals, if you're running out the door with just coffee, all of these things, your hormones are paying for it dearly. So please, please, please take the time to plan ahead and make sure that you're eating some food sitting down. Number 3, we want to get real good quality sleep. Testosterone production happens during deep sleep. So if you are skimping on your sleep, if you're staying up late to get a project done or work done, you have to make sure that you prioritize your sleep, because that's where we make our testosterone. One thing I want to tell you is that if you have a low sex drive, which is very common in perimenopause, as one of the major signs of it, is that you can go to your doctor and ask your doctor to test your testosterone levels, and you can get hormone replacement for low sex drive. That is the only reason your doctor is able to actually give you testosterone. That is the only documented reason. It has a million other benefits, but none of them are so well documented as low sex drive. So if you go to your doctor and say, I have low sex drive, she will give it to you, or he will give it to you, but you will also see other benefits in your drive, in your mood, and other benefits. You can't go in there and be like, hey, I want some testosterone. I'm really feeling kind of meh. They're not going to give it to you. That's not a good reason. In fact, they're going to give you an SSRI. And don't forget, I'm also going to give you a summary. It's a quick guide, listener guide of this episode so that you can go over it and keep it handy. And you will get that in the show notes. All right, let's discuss 3 ways to lower your testosterone if it's high. All right, to do. You want to address inflammation. Perimenopause is a pro-inflammatory state. We're just going to be a lot more inflamed, and it doesn't take much. It does not take much to become inflamed when you're in perimenopause. That's why we have to double down on all of these things that we have to do. You want to address that inflammation. You want to make sure that you're balancing your blood sugar, because a high blood sugar is going to cause the high insulin, and the high insulin is going to cause the high testosterone. So make sure we're prioritizing that protein, the fiber, especially at breakfast. Go see a functional medicine practitioner. Book yourself a 360 wellness assessment with me. If you are drinking alcohol, alcohol is going to fuel that inflammation, and any sort of poor sleep is all going to fuel the fire of inflammation. And then there are supplements that can help. Some practitioners recommend saw palmetto. Green tea is like it's like such a natural thing. Green tea, my goodness, it has EGCG. It's such a great product. And you don't even need a pill for it. You can just have some tea. That's like a no-brainer. Things like that, those things will help to lower the effects of the symptoms of high testosterone. I don't necessarily think that they're going to lower your testosterone, but they will lower the symptoms of it. But I highly recommend that you talk to a qualified practitioner regarding your supplementation. You do not just willy-nilly take it on my recommendation because I'm not your provider. And then there are other supplements that are going to help you raise your testosterone level and even lower your cortisol levels. And I'm going to give you a hint that we will talk about that supplement on a later date. But just keep that in mind that can, there are natural ways to actually lower your testosterone levels. The most effective way would be to make sure that you are eating a good diet, low sugar in either direction. It's going to help you either way with low or high testosterone. So that is it. You are going to get a quick guide, a summary guide that you can use along with this episode to kind of go through the high and low symptoms. You can check them off. You can say, hey, you know what? I actually feel like I have all of these symptoms. You take it to your practitioner. You can bring it to your 360 wellness assessment if you'd like to book one with me. But either way, whether your testosterone is high or it's low, or you're in the I have no clue category, so it's not just random, and you really don't have to live with these symptoms. There are easy steps to take that will benefit not just your testosterone, but all your other hormones. So even if for whatever reason, if your hormones are off, you can always test. That is the most important thing, is just get a baseline of where are your hormones. And you want to make sure that you're testing for free testosterone. And that is super important because that's the one that's active. So these are the first steps in getting answers to your questions, and guessing is not going to help you fix it. So we really want to get some clear data on that. So if you want to work on your hormone support and you don't want any prescriptions and you don't want to be guessing, book yourself a 360 wellness assessment with me so that we can review your symptoms together and create a plan to help you feeling better in no time. Thank you for listening today. I really appreciate it. Be sure to download all of your resources in the show notes. Take care, and I'll see you next time.